Cool. So we're going to do a science and technology update around this introduction. Quick recap of the new research framework, progress so far, and then the last, which Jamie hasn't seen yet, is making sure we're doing the right thing. We really only got a chance to talk about it yesterday. So, bear with us if it's a little bit unpolished.
Yeah, this is about 24 and a half hours old. And this is a brand new duet that we're performing today. So we might be a little bit rusty, but we'll give it a go as the Dear Science guys.
Yeah. So just like Sarah said, I'm Emil Murphy. So I was 2 weeks ago starting as the new Science and Policy Manager. So this is almost as new to me as it's going to be to you. So we're just going to recap a little bit. And I think you guys talked about this last year in your online conference, and you all remember all the bits. And that's good because it's going to be a test afterwards. So we used to have two joint ventures, the AgResearch and the Velvet Antler Research New Zealand bunch. And the Velvet Antler Research did research on Velvet Antler, and the AgResearch did research on venison and farm systems and little bit of it. They didn't really kind of cover it all. There's the whole thing when you got several seats and what falls between the seats and all that kind of stuff. So what happened really last year is dissolved those ones and moved into a program of co-innovation where the Research Trust is funding together with MB money through AgResearch directly, and we're working with a way of actually being able to cover the whole farm system and actually making sure we're doing the right research, irrespective of what part of the environment programs or on farm programs or marketing programs we need to cover.
So I guess this is me. So the real history, this isn't anything new to all of us. As was mentioned earlier today, we've been working basically since the industry started and using science to drive what we do. So the deer industry has always been innovative, and innovation has always been at the heart of most things that the deer industry's actually done. So this whole co-innovation thing isn't necessarily new, and in some ways we've probably been doing co-innovation at times long before somebody coined a phrase for it, put it in a textbook and said, right, let's go out and actually do co-innovation. So if you're looking at that there, that's Ken Drew down there in the pasture doing the calf tagging, and that little story there's just talking about how Invermay actually got their first deer, which was Ken hitting the road and going around and looking at some of the farms around Southland Otago, and Herbie White, they struck a deal with Herbie White to get about 90 odd hinds onto Invermay, and that's where it all started, and that started 1973. So almost 50 years of all this going. Now the next slide, before we move on to it, I don't want to cause any further catastrophization to anyone who's got any sensitivities. So if you've got an issue with sharks, brace yourself. Right. So this is a Mako shark. And the reason I put a Mako shark up there, nothing to do with deer farming. It's all about innovation. So the thing with a lot of sharks is that to breathe, which is very important, they have to keep moving forward. And innovation's the same. To keep moving forward, we have to keep innovating. So, next.
Oh, me again. I just think that the shark fin might be almost as magical as velvet, though I don't know. It's always a blasphemy maybe. So we're just going to touch a little bit on why this co-innovation concept or kind of collaboration concept. So what the idea is having a framework that can deliver solutions and deliver impact when we're talking about really kind of complex and dynamic systems and problems that, we change one thing on the farm. It doesn't just change that. It changes the whole thing all the way through. And it's, Jamie or I or a bunch of us can sit and think about it, but actually we need to work through together. And it needs to have this kind of recurring checking in that it's moving along the right line, that it's actually fixing the stuff and it's going to be able to be implemented the ways it's meant to be. And that we do that through the journey and not just, we'll start a program here and then in 2.5 years we'll come and we have a ready product and it's not going to work at all. Because we've done that. I used to work in government. We do that all the time. So it's really, I guess, similar to like Agile, what they use in Agile project management to actually check in, make sure, change direction if we need to. So what we have sitting kind of as the touch points back into the farming communities is the 4 innovation steering groups to be able to do this ongoing feedback and make sure stuff is moving along in the right way, on the right track. And I put that as a pretty pictures because I like pretty pictures. So there's 4 kind of areas or kind of core groups. And as you see, they kind of overlap very visually. One sits looking at improved breeding. So that's really our genetics gurus that are all kind of the same people anyway. We got a post-farm group, which is really around the marketing, functional qualities of the products we make. Environment group, which looking at environment, obviously. And then on-farm, which looking at the whole farm systems and production systems. And they all interact. And I guess that's kind of one of the big things we're looking at over this next year is how do we make sure we have those interactions between the groups.
So this is just a generalized example of, I guess, the complexity of what we're all dealing with. So this is actually just a diagram of our Hitting Targets research program from about 3 years ago. So there's a whole lot of stuff in there that's interlinking, and this was purely from a research point of view that delivered to other research projects or feedback through it. And as Emil pointed out before, the research, I guess, in recent times, there's been a bit of linearity about it and not that whole interaction. So we as researchers might have been doing all this complex thinking and going back and reevaluating and that sort of thing. We didn't have the depth of it from industry that we're hoping to get now, so that we're actually getting that feedback when a piece of research comes forward, but also when a piece of research or a research investment is actually being generated, decided on, or an area is being decided to even start to do some research in.
Cool. So just, I guess, really where we are at the moment. So really the work that's been done over the last year and a bit has been a lot on generating the ideas, making sure we capture the ideas that are around, and that we're prioritizing those through, the actual people who are going to use the outputs. And what we just started, Jamie and I started last week, I think, was looking at 2 things really, which is, okay, so when, Jamie's got his scientists doing all this work, how do we measure, how do we stay on top of what they're doing, and they don't just take there's $200,000, I'm going to go into my room and I'm going to come out in 9 months, which is frankly what they'd like to do if they could. So how do you have that interaction with them? So actually they come back, they check in, they say, this is what we've done. This is what we're thinking. Is that the right? And we can have, the right people having the commenting on that. We're looking at how can we make sure the groups are, and I think that was general feedback we've got from all the groups. They're really interested in what everybody else is doing, because it's so interconnected, like where it actually hits the ground, largely on the farm with the actual deer actually, living in a paddock, actually eating the feed, actually breeding, all that kind of stuff. Actually, it all comes together. So we have some thoughts around how can we make sure that actually it's all aligned and we've got the same kind of, what was the term we used this morning, direction of travel. And then what we also need to have a look through during this year is really around when we get to the end of a research program or a project. How do we share that? How do we bring that out to the industry so that it actually makes an impact? Because I mean, there's some, as a scientist, it's useful to have publications to your name. Actually, as a farmer, it doesn't help you that Jamie's got 15 publications and Jeff's got 280. It's if you can't use the information, and literally, this is research that the industry is paying for, so you need to make sure it lands and comes to you in a way that you can use it. I don't think there was anything on there. Let's see what there.
So, yeah. And this talk, I mean, if you're expecting a whole lot of high science, we're not really delivering it in this talk, and we'd like to talk high science one-on-one if you want to come and have a chat. But this is about this new way of doing things and where we're up to. And this is a big change. And again, you've heard a lot about change and disruption through the year. And this is just another one of those things. So at the moment, we're in a relationship building phase. There's a whole bunch of new people working together in a different way, and the different way they're working together is not laid out in some clearly mapped path. It's evolving as we go. And with any sort of relationship building, you're getting to know new people, so you're having to build trust, and you've got to understand how the others need, what the others' needs are, what their drivers are. We've got very different drivers, all of which need to actually be maintained in order for us to deliver what the industry actually wants out of this. And then we've got the legacy on top of it, and that legacy essentially is the existing science. So we've got a lot of projects, particularly that were funded by AgResearch, that are long-term research projects. So it's not like we just came in with a whole new way of doing our innovation and our investments in research and innovation and threw everything else out the door. Those existing programs are still carrying on, and they will be revisited in a different way than the AgResearch. The AgResearch board revisited them in the past. They'll be revisited by a different group of people. So they'll still be revisited and they'll be changed as we go on, but it will be with a different focus. And that different focus is really important. As Emil pointed out earlier, when we had the separate programs, things were basically ring-fenced. Antler in particular was ring-fenced over here and everything else was over here, and the two didn't mesh, and there's potential for a lot of loss of synergies, things to drop through the cracks, all the rest. I mean, personally for me, it was incredibly frustrating at some times that Antler was over here and we were working over here, because you could have tacked on a little bit of Antler somewhere for hardly any more cost and maybe done something in that Antler space. So I think it's really good that we've managed to bring them back together in this new relationship, and they've been apart for a very, very, very long time so far as the research ideology goes. So this thing is really, really new. It's really only been operating for a year, and it was impacted by COVID. Very different way to how all of you guys were impacted by COVID, but as was pointed out, trying to do things over Zoom or otherwise with a whole bunch of people trying to get to know each other and do all that stuff earlier isn't so easy on a Zoom. It's much better face to face. So at the moment, one of the things you would have seen on that earlier co-innovation cycle is about the doing, and the doing's the only the start of things really. And really right now, we really are only in the doing phase. We're doing stuff, we're doing the existing projects, we're doing some projects that got sorted out by the group this time last year, and we're doing things to get this whole new relationship and everything up and running. But we're not really doing co-innovation as yet, and we won't be doing co-innovation until we've worked right through the cycle of some projects within this thing and started to reflect on them and go, oh, okay, what did we learn? What does this mean? Where are we going to go with this? So we'd be glib and a little bit dishonest to say we're co-innovating right now. Co-innovation's the goal, and we're working towards that.
Not that we wouldn't be glib and dishonest if we had to, as a scientist in us. So I guess the last kind of concluding things that I guess we want to get across is really, we need you guys to tell us what is the right things to keep on doing. What is the stuff that is causing problems? We got a whole lot of big thinking from the board strategy day, and perceived risks to the industry that are big mega trends and all that kind of stuff. And we can deal with that, but we also need the right stuff that's coming. What's the stuff that actually is worrying you about the farm? What is the stuff that's worrying you about about selling the product? About actually being able to manage the environmental situations, meeting the environmental plans. So you can't force innovation, and I'm not sure innovation is the best word, but it's the one we're having. It's really around being in a place where you can bet the ideas back and forth, and it's not so much about, hey, farming community, come to us with a research proposal. It's around, what are the ideas that we should develop? Jamie can write research plans. That's his job. Or we got a whole team at MMA or across AgResearch that can do it. It's around the ideas, and it's around betting those ideas around and figuring out, refining them until we get to something. We tried to stay not too formal, not too strict, not too process-based, because it doesn't let you just take those curves out and figure out, well, what if? Again, no idea is a bad idea. The crazy ideas are probably the best. It's just a matter of how do we get there, and can we get there in one jump, or do we need to take 5 or 20? So Ines is nodding. He knows my crazy ideas, so that's right. But it's around finding the right time and the right place for these things to do. And as I said, the other really crucial part for us to make sure we understand is how do you as an industry, how do we need to present the results in a way that actually make them useful to you?
Yeah, and I think that last point's really important. At the moment, as I said, things have been a bit linear, and we've probably had a lot of science die on a desk or in a drawer. So we've done the science as been requested by AgResearch, and then we've delivered a report as requested and milestoned, and then that's maybe been it. Or we've sat there going, so what do we do now? And in some cases, there's been follow-up, and I guess the Carla for me personally would be an example where there's been quite a bit of follow-up, but that follow-up's still been not entirely ad hoc, but we're guessing a bit how we actually should be delivering it to people. So that's one thing that we really want to know, is how you as producers and stakeholders in the industry want to interact with science, want to use science, and want to consume it. Emil said earlier that, you don't want to read scientific papers. I know a couple of farmers that actually really desperately do want to read scientific papers after they've been listening to the national program all day in the tractor. So I know it covers the whole gambit of people. So please get back and tell us. And I'm not sure if you got a stand here for this, but so we got a stand here. Emil can talk a bit more about that. That was Phil's great idea, and that'll be at the Tech Expo as well for you to give us any sort of feedback. And as I pointed out there, no idea is a bad idea. Those things that you are writing down when Lance is telling you to write down things, that's probably going to be the sort of stuff that we actually want to hear. And just because somebody's brought it up before doesn't mean, or maybe it's even had the science done, doesn't mean that we don't need to hear it. If it's already had the science done, we probably need to hear that we need to communicate it better or differently.
And when you send it to us, you can tick it off, and then you get your dopamine hit as well. So you see, I was listening. I don't know where Lance went. Do I get a gold star? No, he's gone. Yeah.
So we've kept this short because we want to give you guys some time to have questions or to get to afternoon tea early, whatever suits. And I just thought I'd finish up just a bit of a reflection on our science and things and the things that contribute to it. So this is a hind that will be retired from the farm this year. She would have already been retired, but the particular trial she's in doesn't end until the end of the month. So she's a 2009 born. So she's fully recorded in our herd, and she, as you can see, is a bit special. She's not hand raised or anything. She's just one of those friendly deer that you get. So she's actually called Friend. But yeah, she'll be retiring from the farm after a long career of 12 years contributing to science. So thanks to all the animals that are out there contributing as well. Right, so if we've got any questions, we can run some mics around the room because we can talk from a single one now.
I'd like to ask a question. I might be a bit ignorant, but I've got no idea what projects you're working on at the moment or how many people you've got in your team to work on them.
In the current year, and this is just within our single program within AgResearch. So one of the key things that this was set up for by DINZ and AgResearch was to try and actually grow the pool of funding that we're getting for deer science in general and have a single focused area to actually do that on. So I'll just talk on behalf of the project I lead. So there's currently 18 projects in that of varying different size. Not really time to go into all of them here. They cover a whole breadth of research horizons and project types. So a more recent thing that we've introduced with this new structure is a thing called learning phases. So they're short, small, concise projects that are aimed about essentially de-risking stuff or learning a bit more about something. So they're relatively small. So I think we've got maybe 3 or 4 of them in the program this year round, and then we've got some really big ones. So the biggest one we've got is the waterways monitoring, for example. So that's big in terms of dollars and resource. That's a $400,000 project, and that's going to be running for 6 years. So it's still a couple of years to run in that. So that's the general breadth of it. In terms of team, when I counted up, there's actually over 40 people been directly involved in the projects in that particular portfolio of work. Now, as I say, there's other research going on. Those people are not full-time on it by any means, but that's the total number of individuals either within AgResearch or across contributing Lincoln University. And I think we might have somebody at Abacus that I might have counted up in that at the time actually involved. So we've got access to a lot of people within having AgResearch as a partner to the industry. I mean, AgResearch has got 600 employees all up there that can be accessed, and we're looking to get back in contact with Massey to try and get some more science that's directly industry focused happening at Massey, and we've got a PhD student directly in Lincoln that's got the Lincoln Deer Research Facility back up and running thanks to work by Pablo Gregorini starting that. So we're spreading as wide as we can for the money that we got.
Richard Burden. I really enjoy the Next Generation Facebook page that's out and about. Do you think it's possible that we could set up a science one? Because often when you're out and about, you come up with these questions and sometimes it's just a quick answer to solve them. So is it possible to set something up like that the science people could sort out for us while we're out in the field?
From my point of view, happy to look into anything like that. I occasionally reply on the Next Gen page if I see a really easy, obvious one to reply. Other than that, Emil?
So I definitely think there's room to to look at that, how they would run, and whether they would be as a kind of a to and fro, or whether just pop up new stuff a little bit. But yeah, that's definitely they will bring back and look at what we can do with.
Hey, Jamie, just how we're going with registration of a drench for our deer. Like, it was completed some time ago, and I've been promised it every Christmas for 2 Christmases. Which Christmas is it going to be ready by?
I'd like to make the hospital pass on this because I haven't been directly involved with that, but I'm not sure that Emil would know anything more. Is
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, Ines. Yeah.
Hold the funding.
May.
Which one?
The application's been with the Agricultural and Chemicals Approval Agency at MPI for about 3 months now. They came back with a couple of questions at the early outset, so there was a little bit more research needed to be done, so that has delayed it. But we did expect a response probably by the end of March. So we're talking to Nexan. It is Nexan, the company who have developed the product, who have made the registration, and they've got the primary contact with ACVM. We're encouraging all parties to get on with it and get it approved. We do know that there's work going on in the background by Nexan in the preparation of the marketing and sales material, so they are expecting the approval to be imminent.
And product on the shelf when?
That would be up to them, but I would imagine that the rollout will be fairly quick as soon as they get the approval.
So, thanks for that, Ines. You can have this back again.
Thank you so much, Jamie Ward and Emil Murphy.